Hello and a very warm welcome to LB Loxley's Wildlife. Most of us have dreams, but few of us ever get to realise them. One such lucky chap is Mike Gage, who, with the help of his trusty volunteers, runs the Southwest Deer Rescue Centre near Crewkerne. Back in November, I went along to talk to Mike about the centre and the animals that live there. Could I ask you first then, where did your love of deer come from?
It was about 38 years ago, and I was a plasterer for 40 odd years, and I was going into Dulverton one morning. I had 6 bungalows to plaster, me and some friends, and as we were driving into Dulverton on Exmoor, 9 red deer ran across the road in front of me, and from that day on I was hooked on red deer. And went back all my spare time and started going out watching them.
So how did you get then from the love of deer to working with the herd?
I saw a guy called Dr. John Henshaw on TV with one of the first commercial deer farms in the West Country, and I thought, he's the guy I need to go and talk to. So off I went down to Chumley one Sunday and met him, and we got on very well, and I then bought 20% share into his deer herd.
Right.
And he'd go off on wildlife projects all around the world, Ethiopia and Nepal and places like that. When he was away, I'd go down with his deer at the weekends and stuff like that, and all of a sudden I got one feeding out my hand, a stag, when he was grinding his teeth at me, and I thought he was being friendly, and he was being quite nasty, and I was so thick I didn't know that. I didn't realise, so I just stuffed cobs into his mouth when he was grinding his teeth, and to my surprise he sort of got friendlier and friendlier he was really tame in no time at all. Actually, it amazed me. A big 12-point stag it was.
So was it around that time that you realised you had a way with deer then?
Not until Dr. Henshaw spoke to me, actually.
Right.
Because he came back from one of his tours, and I went down in the weekend he was home, and he said to me, "What have you done to my stag?" And I said, "What are you talking about?" "Well, he keeps following me." And I said, "Yeah, I've been giving him cobs." He said, and he never ever had a tame deer before.
Really?
And this deer got tamer and tamer as the more I went there. I've got loads of photos of him around the place.
Yeah, I see them, yeah.
And of me with him, and he I don't know, he just became tame, and then I realised that deer seemed to like me.
Yeah.
And that's how it all started to happen, really. And it sort of got worse over the years. So
Worse?
Yeah, well, every deer I seem to see or talk to seems to want to be friendly with me.
That's not a bad thing, is it?
That sounds ridiculous, but it is.
How did you manage to get from owning 20% to owning your own herd?
Dr. Henshaw phoned me up one day and out of the blue after several years and told me he'd sold the deer herd to a New Zealander, and the deer were going to go to New Zealand, and I owned one part of my group that I own was a big stag called Jamie, and Jamie and me were really good friends, and I didn't want Dr. Henshaw to sell him. And I sort of got a bit, we sort of had a few words, if that's what you like to say.
Yeah.
And we still stayed friends, but we had a few words over me not letting Jamie go to New Zealand, and I got my way. He didn't go, but the main part of the herd did.
Yeah.
And what was left really were sort of Jamie and about 50 deer, and I ended up looking after them in Devon for a guy called Mr. Carr from New Zealand. And nothing happened. I was just finding myself travelling 80-mile round trip every day to feed these deer.
Long trip?
Yeah, every day after plastering all day.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time it was in the night, in the dark. And you go in there with sort of 50, 60 deer, you don't know where they're coming from. You're walking out with a bag of food out into the middle of this 50-acre park, and they're all round you. Antlers, the lot. But didn't seem to, no one ever got, and they never had a go at me, so I just carried on doing it. And then I lived down there for a while in a caravan, and I found that more and more deer were coming to the caravan every day for biscuits and carrots and stuff. And more, so eventually most of the deer were tame through with me. I wouldn't say they were with other people, but they definitely were with me.
Because of your way with deer,
Yeah. So that's really how it all happened.
Right.
And then I got ill with cancer, and ended up in hospital for a long time, where my neighbour looked after the deer down there, a farmer, a friend of mine. And when I was in hospital, I thought, I've got to find somewhere near home, because this travelling's killing me, really. And I was lucky enough to find this place here, through Barry and Charmaine Titchener. They own a 110-acre farm here, and I've got about 80 of it, 80 acres, I reckon, with the hay fields.
80 acres?
Roughly.
Oh, yeah.
And they let me do what I like on here, really, which is very good. And this is something I've always wanted to do all my life. So I've got my dream come true, really, if you like.
Yeah, so that's how you came to own this place here, run this place here at Crewkerne, then?
Yeah, this is how I got there.
Yeah.
I don't own it or anything like that. I just rent the land, really. So that's how I got here. And we've got quite a lot of deer that have come from the RSPCA. We've got some that have come from people that have tried to hand rear a deer and then realise how hard it is, and they bring it to me, and I give them a life here, otherwise, which they wouldn't have.
No.
And they're all tame, which is quite amazing, really. I think, I'm not sure exactly how many we've got that are tame because they've been brought up by humans. It's probably, I don't know, we've definitely got 20 here, I think.
Yeah.
I have released some roe deer back into the wild that have been brought here. One by the police, two by the RSPCA, and they've gone back to the wild.
That's nice, isn't it?
But all the fallow, the red, I've had not many fallow. I've got about 8 fallow that are hand reared, and they're still here, and they'll be here for the rest of their lives, really.
How many deer did you have here when you first moved in?
60.
60.
Yeah.
That's quite a lot to start with, isn't it?
Yeah, about 60.
Yeah.
But a lot of them were hand reared and came up from Devon when we moved up here. Mainly red deer and fallow.
Yeah.
And roe. One roe I'd had for 9 years. Sadly, she died up here in her 9th year. That was a good age for a roe deer.
Is it? Yeah.
Roe deer don't live that long normally. It's 6, 7 is about an average.
So how many deer do you have here now?
Somewhere about 150.
150?
Right, yeah. But they're all pretty tame. 90% of them are tame. They're not all hand reared.
No.
A lot of them are wild, but they come up to food and things like that.
So how many of those 150 have come here as orphans to you?
Somewhere around 18 at the moment.
18?
18, yeah. And they'll be here for the rest of their lives, really.
So tell us then, Mike, about the different breeds of deer you have here then.
Okay, we have the big ones, so the red deer. They originals came from Dr. Henshaw. Some of them come from Woburn Abbey in Bedford.
Oh, yes.
The stag, definitely. The stag comes from Woburn Abbey. He's a bit special anyway. He's called Big Jack, named after my grandson, actually. But he's not tame, but he will take biscuits off of you, which is pretty good. He took me 5 weeks to get him to come and take a biscuit out of my hand from just seeing a tractor and a quad bike and a guy chucking food out to the herd, and he came here and with 5 weeks had him feeding out my hand, which was quite good, really.
Oh, it's amazing.
I've had quicker than that, but
have you?
Yeah. But this one was wild.
So
he's an amazing stag. His girls came from a guy called John Burge down near Barnstable. The owners of the land bought. So now we've got 50. What else have we got then? We go for the fallow. We've got about 24 fallow, and I would say that 6 of them are hand reared and bottle fed. Some came from Cricket St Thomas when it was a wildlife park, and the rest have all been born here.
Right.
We got Sika deer, and I acquired 3 of them 15 years ago from Cricket St Thomas. All boys. Took them to Devon, and I decided I ought to get some girls. So I phoned up a few people I know and asked if they knew whether there was any Sika deer. Japanese Sika, these are, by the way.
Right.
And 13 types of Sika. So we've only got Japanese. So I found a lady down in Cornwall near Looe, and put down in Looe, Port Perrow area, and she had a little wildlife park. And I went down to see her, and I bought 6 girls off of her. Brought them back to Devon.
Yeah.
And then I brought them up here. I lost a couple because they were old. Took 3 or 4 years. And then I brought all the rest up here, and now we got 31.
Right. Great.
I've got some access deer, and those I acquired from Cricket St Thomas about 15 years ago. The originals. And I've got 21 of them now.
I've seen those, and they're absolutely stunning.
They're
stunning
beautiful deer,
yeah.
but they're the most nervous ones I've got of all the deer I've got.
Yeah.
And they're the hardest to get quiet and tame, really. Well, not tame, approachable then.
Right, yeah.
But if I'm on my own, they will come to me, which is quite nice. I reckon I could get one of the stags tame if I worked on them, but at the moment it's taking me so long to feed all the animals, I haven't got time to work on them, if you know.
Yeah.
Try and get him to come in and take food from me.
Right.
If I could get him to come to me, I'd get the herd.
Because they would follow.
They would follow.
Yeah, yeah.
But we have now got 2 mudjack that came from Hungerford only a month ago.
Yeah.
They're called Danny and Jack. Jack's a female. They aren't. One of them's already feeding out my hand. Although they were tame when they came here, they're very nervous when they came here, and they hide quite a lot. But one of them's feeding out my hand at last, and that one is the male, which I was told the female was tamer, but the female was a bit nervous of me.
Right, yeah.
But that will come in time.
I'm sure it will. I don't doubt that in the least. Yeah.
We then got some white red deer.
Yeah.
Which my dream was to find a white deer on Exmoor or the Quantocks. And lucky enough, years ago, I did find out about a white one on the Quantocks, and I did photograph it many years ago, but it died when it was 19.
Right. Are these albinos then?
No.
Right. So they haven't got the pink eyes.
No, they haven't. No. They've got grey eyes.
Grey eyes.
But they're lovely. They're no different than red deer, but they're really throwbacks, to be honest. I started with 4, I think it was, down in Devon. I've now got 22, I think. White ones.
Stunning animals.
And I've got a lovely stag, only a young one. And I borrowed one off a friend of mine, just to put with the original white hinds so we could get some white calves. And that worked.
Right, yeah.
And there was a friend of mine from down near Oakhampton.
Actually, Mike, an interesting question. You've got, 150?
Yeah, roughly.
Deer. So, I mean, how much does that cost you in a year to look after all these animals?
Probably about £7,000 or £8,000 a year.
Really, yeah, yeah. So where does the money come from?
Donations, mainly. People that come here and visit me.
Yeah.
A lot of it, in the beginning, the fencing it was my savings, really. And a couple of friends helped me out, gave me some money towards it. Right. Good friends.
Yes, yeah.
So that was okay. But the food is the thing every year, and they get fed well. I feed them all year round, really, but they get more in the winter. They get ablib hay and fodder beet through the winter.
Yeah.
And if I run out of fodder beet, I've got 15 ton now, should be here any day. And then I start feeding them sugar beet nuts or beef nuts to get them through the rest of the winter.
Yeah.
But I mainly give them nuts during the summer as well, and it helps them come up to people to see them close.
Yeah. I know you also run tours here, don't you? So tell us about the tours that you run. Okay.
We have brownies up here, and we have rainbows, and they come up in the evenings and have a tour around the deer park, and then they have bonfire, and we cook marshmallows on the bonfire, and
yummy.
It's quite good. And have a sing song.
Great stuff.
We really like to get schools, but no one seemed to take not the offer yet.
Well, now's your chance.
Other people come here from Women's Institute, Round Table,
Yeah.
people like that.
I mean, it'd be great for schools, wouldn't it? You know, I mean,
It
it's
would
just-
be. I don't know why. I've tried Abersays in Chard. They don't seem to be. I've taken in stuff because years ago I had a book published about me watching deer on Exmoor
Right.
with a teacher from Abersay School called
Yeah.
Stuart Collier. Stuart and Stuart and me put the book together, similar to what we're doing really. And the book came out, was printed, and off it was go. And then there were cutbacks in the schools,
Yeah.
so it all fell through. Really.
Yeah, being here with the school is great because it is educational as well as great
that's
fun
what
for
I
the
want to
kids.
do.
So.
I want to really educate children to the ways of deer and the different types, so that in the future they're going to be the ones that will protect the deer in the future.
That's
Well,
right.
I've
Yeah.
long gone, so it's going to be someone else like that, someone who's got my passion, I suppose.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we need children really
You do need
to learn
so,
about
yeah.
them. I've got a grandson, Sean, who's fantastic with the deer. He's been brought up with them. He's 23 now, 23 this week, I think, and he's been brought up with the deer, and hopefully, and he knows all the ways and when they're aggressive, when they're not, all that sort of stuff. So if I could teach other people that, other children, then they would be the people that look after our wild deer in the future, as well as our ones in captivity.
Yeah, so if you're listening, bring the kids here. It's educational, it's fun,
Yeah.
and it's a great day out. So
It is.
yeah,
I think it is. Yeah.
bear that in mind. Yeah. The view from up here is breathtaking, but you are built into the side of a hill, aren't you? So how can you be part of this experience if you have mobility problems?
Aha. Well, we in the summer it's quite easy. We can put wheelchairs in the back of a trailer, and off we go really, and take the wheelchairs with people in the wheelchairs into the deer, so that the deer will come to them,
Right.
and they can feed them out of the back of the trailer. So it's not too much of a problem really. We have got a 4x4 that we do put people in as well, which belongs to my friend Peter, and Peter will drive people around in his 4x4, and they will go in and see the deer really.
Right.
So it's quite a good thing. Since I was in a wheelchair for quite a period of time, I understand the problems that people in wheelchairs have,
Yeah.
and if I can help them, I will.
Right.
But it's not so easy in the winter because it's wet and muddy and a bit slippery.
Now, if you want more details about this place, then the website address is www.deer-rescue.com. There's lots of interesting information on there to look at as well, so do have a look at the website. What number should they ring then if they want a tour?
It's 01460 64174. The mobile number is 07870 440 392.
I believe you have a very interesting story about the deer you had called Socrates.
Socrates? Yeah.
Tell us about Socrates.
One day I was at home, and Dr. Henshaw phoned me up and said that some young girl who was looking after the deer while he was away had been down and picked the calf up and took it up to the house, didn't know what to do with it. So I went down the next day and picked it up and brought it back to Chard with me. I started bottle feeding it, and although it was a stag, it became very, very tame, even in later life. And Socrates used to go to work with me, plastering, in a van, with 4 blokes and a deer. Every day I go to work, every day Socrates would come with me in the van. And we'd go to a building site, and I'd leave him in the van, and then come out and give him a bottle of milk or whatever during the day, maybe 2 bottles. And then if it was in a house, I'd just put him in the back garden and push him down like the mother would in the wild, and he'd stay there till I came back to him.
Yeah.
And this went on for 4 or 5 months until one day he decided that I left him at home one day, and he decided he would jump all the fences up through the row of houses where I live to follow me to go to work in the van. And the neighbours were all coming out, this little deer jumping all the fences up through like the Grand National it was, my wife said.
Wonderful.
And so I decided I'd take him back to Dr. Henshaw's Deer Park and let him go. And that's what we did. But after a while, Dr. Henshaw said he never had the time to give him 1 bottle of milk a day, and gave him away to another deer farmer over near Minehead. And that, to be quite honest, upset me quite a lot, to be honest with you. And and the last time I saw him then was that he was 6 months old, and he was off his bottle when he was okay, but he was now over near Minehead. And as far as I know, that when he got older, they took him to fetes and things like that. And because not all stags are aggressive when they get older, some are soppy, like he was. Anyway, I didn't see him again until he was 8 years old, and I happened to be in Minehead working with a friend of mine, an Artex, a friend of mine. And on the way back, I happened to mention that the stag was down the road, as we were going to pass the road where he was too on the deer farm. He said, "Let's go down and see him." So we went down to see him, and I hadn't seen him since 6 months old. And anyway, we get down there, and I see the people, and I said, "Where's Socrates to?" "Oh, you mean Socks," she said. They shortened the name to Socks. Anyway, he was in a field, up across this field, and I said, "Can I go and see him?" "Yes, of course you can." So I walk in the paddock, and this big stag comes hurtling down across the field towards me, and I'm on my own. He comes bombing up to me, and started to sniff me all round here. Then he started sucking my hair like he did when he was a calf.
Oh, wonderful.
And then he was licking me on my arms. I only had a t-shirt on. He was licking all the sweat. And the emotion I had in him was fantastic.
I can imagine.
And for people to say that deer don't remember people, they certainly do.
Just proven wrong.
And then I saw him again when he was 14, and exactly the same thing happened.
Yeah.
He came down rubbing himself all over me. Big antlers, mine.
Yes.
And but when he did it the first time, it was quite amazing. And my hair on my neck was stood up. And that's what happened. Then he died a few years ago. But
what a lovely experience. I mean, thanks for sharing it. That's a great experience.
Fantastic it was.
Yeah. Well, thanks for telling us all about the centre and its wonderful inmates. If you don't mind calling them that.
Yeah.
I hope that we have sparked some interest in our listeners. This really is a wonderful place to visit, and I hope that many more people will come along and experience a close encounter with deer. Mike Gage, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.